Welcome back to Hobby Jogger Elite, and welcome to one of my favorite videos to make every time a race or a marathon comes around, and that is the game plan video where I talk about shoes, gear, fueling, pacing, everything, the whole 9 yards. It is always, first and foremost, just a privilege to be able to make these types of videos because it means that I have made it through another training block. And I don't really like to word it that way, made it through another training block, but you know, you go through a lot of trials and tribulations, a lot of ups and downs through a marathon training block. And you know, as you get older, life just throws a little bit more at you as time goes on. So I am more grateful than ever to be sitting here on race week. And if you are watching this when it comes out, tomorrow is the 2024 Chicago Marathon, and I could not be more excited to be racing it. We will first be talking about the kit or the gear that I will be using. We will start with the half tights. When it comes to my channel, you may very well have found this channel because of my videos on half tights. And I think gonna be sticking with what I know to have worked in the past, especially when it came to the last marathon I ran last year. And that is going to be, once again, the Bandit Super Beam 7-pocket half tights. I have yet to find a pair of half tights that outdoes these. They have, of course, come out with like different versions of the 7-pocket half tights. They have different fabrics out there. I would love to try those, but Bandit 7-pocket half tights not only sell out extremely quickly when they come out with new product or when they just restock in general, they're also very expensive. So until these things are falling apart, hopefully not in the middle of the race, I will not be replacing them. I will continue to race in these. Speaking of gear, if you've ever heard me talk about singlets, you know that my absolute favorite singlet to race in and train in, quite frankly, is the Lululemon Fast and Free singlet, and I will be wearing one of those. Again, I'll be going with this very bright yellow variety. My fiance said it will just be easier to spot me in the midst of the crowds of Chicago Marathon if I am wearing something that sticks out quite a bit more than the faded orange one I have, or like the lavender one that I wore for this past half marathon and a past marathon. Extremely comfortable, very lightweight, great in all conditions. I am never going to stray away from the Lululemon Fast and Free singlet as long as it is the best that I have, and it is by far the best singlet that I have. And then the final piece of gear that I think is worth sharing is just my shoe choice, which has been up in the air. If you've seen, I put up a poll on YouTube about which would you choose for a marathon between the brand new Alphafly 3s and the original, the GOATs, the Alphafly version 1s. I have both of those shoes right here. I'm still torn. It is literally Chicago Marathon race day tomorrow. We are lining up and we are running the thing, and I still don't know which one I'm going to be using. The poll was understandably so skewing much more in favor for the Alphafly 3s, I think because they're just the newer model. There's more hype at this point around the Alphafly 3s. The Alphafly 1s have been around for years at this point, so it makes sense that, you know, people would tend to favor the one that's being hyped up a little bit more, the newer one, all that good stuff. Right now, I seriously do not know, and I would not say it's a 50-50 chance right now. I would say it's more like 65-35 leaning towards the Alphafly 1, because simply the last 2 times I've worn this exact pair of shoes, this specific Alphafly, not just the Alphafly version 1s in general, but this one, I've PB'd in the marathon by 13 minutes, and I PB'd in the half marathon by 8 minutes. So pretty good track record there. I have my PBs all the way from the 5K to the full marathon in the Alphafly version 1s. I've never had a problem with them when it comes to race day. And I feel like because I just recently got the Alphafly 3s, I've only run once in them. While they were very good, they were not noticeably better, or I don't know if I'd even say they were better than the Alphafly version 1s. I see their advantages when it comes to them being lightweight, being a little bit smoother, I think, and a little bit more streamlined. Again, they feel like a solid race shoe, and in any other discussion between 2 shoes, I think I would pick the Alphafly 3 over any other brand's offering of super shoes right now. But when I have a semi-fresh, you know, I've only raced in these twice at this point, pair of Alphafly 1s, you know, I think I'm gonna hold on to the magic that these have given me, and I at least know exactly what these will feel like for 26 miles. I know what they felt like last year. They delivered every second of that race. I only know what these feel like up to 12 miles, and those 12 miles were great in these. So I think, despite not really knowing which one, I'm definitely leaning towards the Alphafly ones, but stay tuned. Beyond the kit, the clothing I'm wearing, the gear I will be using, in terms of fueling, it is the same fueling plan that I've been using throughout this block that I've talked about, as well as what I used in last year's fall 2023 marathon. I will be using the Huma Plus gels, primarily the lemon and lime variety. This is my favorite flavor of the Huma Plus gels. It also has more grams of carbs in this particular flavor than any other Huma gel. It has 23 grams of carbs a pop, and it has 25 milligrams of caffeine. So more of a slow sort of injection of caffeine rather than just dropping 100 milligrams on my system at a time like Maurten does, for instance. The plan is to take one every 4 miles as well as one at the starting line. So that should land me at about 7 gels or so. And in addition to that, staying with the lemon and lime flavor variety, which I will probably be so tired of after this marathon, may have to try a new flavor plan for my fueling. We are going to go with what I used last year as well, and what I've used in training for quite a bit of time now, the lemon and lime Scratch Super High Carb. I'm going to be loading it up in a handheld bottle like this, which is crushed up right now. It looks very small, but this is a 17-ounce bottle. I also have a 22-ounce bottle, I believe, and a 20-ounce. I'll probably take the 22 and 20-ounce. The plan is to hopefully be able to get that second bottle during the race. If I'm unable to secure that bottle, I'm going to keep extra gels in my half tights just in case I can't get these extra carbs. And I've used Gatorade electrolyte powder in the past in training, and it has not upset my stomach. I just don't really like it quite as much, but I think I should be able to roll on through in an emergency, or at the very least just take a couple extra gels and supplement that with water from aid stations. From my understanding, there are like 28 stations on the Chicago course, so there should not be any lack of access to water. And if everything goes accordingly, the plan is to have this packet size, which is a half serving of the normal super high carb, so a total of 100 grams from this, about 160 grams from the gels, so in that 260 grams of carbs region. So we've talked about fueling, we've talked about shoes, we've talked about clothing, all that good stuff. The only thing really left for me to talk about is sort of the game plan, the pacing plan. Last year, I went into the marathon with a very open mind, did not fixate on any specific pace. I talked about what potentially my training indicated that I was capable of. Ended up running 2:53 for last year's marathon. Missed Boston cutoff by 3 seconds, by the way, which was definitely a bit of a dagger in the heart, but we are totally fine. Sort of looking back at the data, processing and reflecting about how I felt during that marathon, the perfect conditions. It was the coldest marathon I've ever run, and I run really well in the cold. According to my Stride data, which has been super helpful this marathon, over the past 3 months of training, which has been the bulk of my marathon specific training, the average temperature on my run has been 69 degrees Fahrenheit, which would be considered a pretty warm race day, but I'm just so incredibly accustomed to it because apparently Pennsylvania is just hot and humid all the time now, even when you run between 6 and 7 a.m. every single morning, which is when I run, and the average humidity has been 90%. So 69 degrees Fahrenheit, 90% humidity day is what I am acclimated to. It is what I am used to. I would consider this training block one of my best training blocks, despite how this year started and how much confidence I was lacking going into it back in June when I started to actually train for this. It's been a really, really good training block, despite, for the first time, doing all of my marathon training in very hot, humid conditions. And I know 69 degrees, 90% humidity doesn't sound very warm to people who are down in Florida, Arizona, Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana. I know, I feel for you. Anyway, the way I see things is that I believe I am in better shape at this point than I was last year. Last year, I was so spent by the time race day came around that I think I was actually like in better shape than race day showed. I think I probably could have run closer to like maybe like 251, 252. I feel like I've reallocated my priorities in a good way. And I feel like my like headspace around workouts, you know, whether they're great or not great, I don't really look at them that way. They're just like another brick stacked. You take one day at a time and then you move past it, fixating on like a bad workout. Just not great to do in general. And I think I understand that better now than I ever have before. And I feel like I understand also what I am capable of at various distances better now than ever before. So the pacing plan, very long-winded way of getting here. I am just yapping, but you know, it's my channel. Deal with it, regardless of what the conditions are, because everybody's freaking out about whether it's going to be hot or windy, whatever. We're just going to figure it out while we're out there anyway. I want to go out a little bit conservative, not crazy conservative, but I would not mind having a bit of a quicker second half than I do the first half. Obviously, that's like everyone's ideal. Get faster as you go, negative split it. My goal is to be somewhere in like the 620s throughout the whole thing. I would love to be like sticking to around 625 to like 630 for the first half. And then if I truly, and I think I should, based on how I've been training, if I have it in my legs, just progress things a little bit as the race goes on and try to stick more to those mid 620s rather than like hanging out in the high 620s. If we have enough to give, try to really push towards the end there. I feel like I've always been really conservative with like fixating on heart rate. You know, I've probably gone out a little too hot in my first 2 or 3 marathons, and last year played it conservatively. If you look at my heart rate chart on Strava, I was in like the high 150s the whole time, and that is nowhere near what my marathon potential is. I really want to focus on running by feel. I've done that this block just like I did last block, and that has landed me in like the mid 620s as of late for marathon effort reps, tempos, all that good stuff. In essence, I want to go sub 250. I don't like to focus on numbers too much, but there's just something fun, challenging, kind of scary about saying that I want to go sub 250. I feel like I've trained hard for it. You know, I love Stride quite a bit when it comes to training, and I don't love to fixate on the race predictors, but their race predictor seems to be a bit more fluid and adjust and adapt to my training much more than Coros does. I feel like my Coros prediction has been the same for so long, and even after beating down my Coros half marathon race prediction, it has not changed. So maybe it's just stuck in the mud, but Stride tends to be pretty accurate, pretty fluid, adaptive throughout the training block. And right now, it has me at a very intimidating, rather speedy 245 or like sub 245. I will put it on the screen here. I am not going out at that pace. If I feel great later on, maybe I'll try to progress to a pace that corresponds with that, but that is by no means what I'm shooting for in the first half of the race. It is encouraging to see a number like that, but I'm not going to let that get to my head and just go out, you know, running as hard as possible. So I want to go sub 250, and I'm going to give everything I have in order to do that. I'm also not going to be disappointed if it doesn't happen, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to give everything that I have in me in order to achieve that. So that is my goal. That was a lot of words to just say, I'm trying to go sub 250, and here are the things I'm wearing in order to do it, and here's how I'm feeling in order to do it. But again, it's my channel. Hopefully you didn't hate it too much. If you stuck around this long, maybe you want to track me as I'm running. My bib number will be on the screen here. So I don't know how the marathon trackers work. The biggest marathon I have ever run has only had like 400 or 500 finishers, I think, and did not have tracking. So plug that in wherever you plug things in, see how well I'm doing, or don't, whatever you want to do. That's my bib number. That's my race plan. Let's see how things go tomorrow. Thanks again for watching. Peace.